again, my lovely crafty people, and we are nearly at the end of the fabric manipulation workshops. The last section is fragmented, patched and mended, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the patching and the mending techniques to patch and mend together some fragmented bits of leftover from my other experiments, some experiments that didn't work so well. So this was heat over the top of this pleather across the top of some keys to try and imprint. It didn't work all that well, but that can go in the patchwork. I'm also going to use some scraps that I've offcut. I've got all my thread scraps that I want to fuse together with the disposable washable what's it called, washable fusible stuff. So I'm going to free embroider over that to make a patch. I'm going to have a go, so this is my little cheat list. So I am going to have a go at trapunto. I'm going to fuse my scraps together. I'm going to do a bit of hand sewing, might do a bit of weaving with some of the fabric scraps. But what I want to do is create a patchwork collage of different distressed, discarded bits and bobs that can just go into my scrapbook to finish the fabric manipulation. And then I've got a few more things I want to look at. So these are some of the bits from some of the experiments I've done. So this was a pair of cords today that I picked up in the charity shop and then realised it had been worn away. So the lady let me pay £1 for them and have them as scrap. So I've just cut the worn bit out, and I'm going to maybe do a bit of slashing on this, do a bit of sewing over the top. I might even distress that a bit further with sandpaper. I've got what's left of my crackle, which I really liked. I've got this ruching that I did that I didn't use. I've got some bleaching that kind of over bleached, but that's okay. As I said, I've got those. Got some ruffles. This was a layered, if you remember, I used the petals off a large fabric flower that I picked up, and then I stuck it to that melted ribbon. And then, so that's going in there. This was the bottom of the denim some of the denim that I've been using, and you can see where they've been well loved. They were hemmed, then they've been unhemmed, so that's going in there. This is just a bit of an offcut from this, it's like curtain ties and things, so I'm going to include a bit of that in there. So that's discarded. I've got a little bit of 3D shibori left. What else have I got? So I'm going to lay them out and I'm going to fix them together so that they create like one large patchwork piece. Not quite decided on the final kind of composition, but then I'm going to use a mix of hand sewing and probably some machine embroidery, some machine sewing, just to kind of pull together lots of different ideas that then I can use as a development piece and as another way of looking at techniques. So that's just a rough layout, but as I said, I just want to create kind of like a patchwork collage. Don't know yet, so that might even just go over the top. So that's the idea of where I'm going. I will include a few kind of how-to videos, for example, the trapunto and the fusing and maybe a bit of weaving as well. And we'll just bring it all together to finish off my fabric manipulation for my DiScArDeD project. So all of these are leftover bits. I've even got all the bits that I food dyed last video. What else have I got? I've got these, which have come out of another kind of curtain book. So I've got lots of bits and bobs to play with, lots to do. So I'm going to really enjoy this bit. And we might even do a bit of melting as well. Okay, so stay tuned and follow along. Okay, so I have cut a piece of clear cotton, white cotton fabric to size, and I've started to lay out roughly where I want to put things. So I've got the cord with the worn patch. I've done a little bit more of this woven fabric that I've pulled some of the threads out. I've split that in half, so that's going to go along there. This is what I'm going to do the trabunto on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to machine embroider around the circles. And then maybe around these bits as well. I'm going to machine embroider all the way around the outside. And then what you do is you flip it over and you snip inside. So there's 2 layers there. And then I'm going to flip it over, snip the inside of where the free machine is, and then I'm going to stuff it with pillow, an old pillow that I've got. So the wadding, and then you sew up the holes, and it's like quilting, but easier than quilting. So that will go there. I will just cut out some squares of the various fabrics I've used. I've got my crackled effect left over, I've got my shibori left over, I've got that bit. Then on this netting, I've just shredded up some of the fabric scraps out of my scrap bag, and I'm just going to do some weaving with those. So just really simply, just going to thread this really big darning needle, and I'm just going to weave. So this is an old laundry tablet bag that I've had lying around for years, actually. Never quite known what to do with it. So I'm just going to weave them in. I'm not particularly fussed about, oh no, hang on. Okay, it might be easier to do it one by one. But yes, so that is the idea of it. I'm trying to go right along the edge, and I seem to remember last time I tried to go right along the edge, didn't work. So I'm just going to weave it across, trying to keep it in the right line. So just pulling it across. There we go. So I'm just going to weave lots of threads. I can weave them both directions because the holes in the bag enable me to do that. And I'm just going to create kind of like a woven effect using lots of different fabric scraps. So that is my next thing I'm going to do. I have got a bit of lace that I'm going to cut the detail out, and that will be appliqued on somewhere. And then I will do a little bit of melting. I might use some more of the plastic scraps. But that's where I am so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to video using the weaving, but I'll speed it up, and then I'm going to do the trapunto, and then we'll come back and look at what we do next. So keep watching. So I have finished my weaving, and I had some of this wool that I'd picked up, fizz wool, and it's like, oh, it's got like loads of little fibres to it. So I had some of that, which I wove through as well. And then lots of the scraps of fabric have just been woven through. So that's that finished. So that will go up in that top corner. And I have sandwiched lots of the fibres and threads from my thread pot. And there's even some bits of offcuts of fabric, which I'm going to machine over the top to fix all that. And then it's encased in water soluble fusing. So that will be all fused. So that will go on there as well. And then the trapunto with a P, not trabunto as I keep calling it, trapunto, I'm nearly done. So I sewed in all the detail, and I've sewn all the way around the edge, and I have made the decision that I'm stuffing every bit. So the circles certainly haven't been easy to stuff. And so what I'm doing is, I'm going to start there actually, that's quite a nice big. So I'm just going to snip in. Snip in. Those scissors are really not very sharp. That's it. So I'm just snipping into the back lining, and then I've got my stuffing, which I'm just going to make that hole a little bit bigger because I am struggling. I went to bed last night with a really sore wrist and fingers where I'm trying to be stabby it in. I am having to be a little bit careful because the fabric on the front is quite sheer, and I did at one of the points I did go through it, so there is a little hole, but that's fine because we are doing the DiScArDeD, the distress look. I mean, I certainly probably would make this neater if I was using it for something that wasn't so discarded or distressed. So you can see I'm just pushing the fluff, the stuffing, whatever it's called, padding, toy stuffing in, and it does bunch up quite well actually. Just stuffing it in, and then once you're happy that you've filled the hole enough, you sew up the gap. Try not to lose your needle, which I did last night, and I just stood on it this evening and I found the missing needle. That really hurt, but I found the needle, and it was me that stood on it, not the dog or small beings. Okay, so just gonna keep stuffing that. So and I'm stuffing it quite firm because I really want to accentuate that shape. So I am really stuffing it. Potentially, possibly wouldn't stuff it this firm. I don't know. I quite like it really firm. It's really satisfying though. All right, okay, so now I've got to stuff in from the other side. Okay, so I'm going to carry on with this, and then I'm going to bring the sewing machine. No, I don't know. I might bring the sewing machine over and show you sewing over the top of the sandwiched scraps, or I might just do it off camera. I'm not sure yet. It depends. There we go. Okay, I'm trying to just get that all in. Actually uses up quite a lot of filling, but as I said, this is from a pillow that I had that my dog actually chewed the corner when she was a puppy, and I was like, right, I'm keeping that because I'll use it for, because I do amigurumi crochet. I was like, right, I'm going to use that for stuffing, and it's just been in the back of my Monica cupboard, so I grabbed that out to do this. So I'm going to keep going with this. You can see you can actually get quite a lot in. I think we might almost be there with this one. Yeah, just need to get a little bit in there before I close up the hole. So I just want a little bit more. Actually want it. In. I can go in that side as well. It's almost like a little bit of felt. I mean, I hate needle felting. I can't stand the sound of it and I can't stand the texture of it. But it's kind of got that because you're making it quite solid. Something soft, quite solid. So I'm just going to make sure that that's in. And I've got the edges of the cut for me to be able to sew together. So look, there's the needle that I lost. And as always, I'm going to try and thread the needle on camera, which is not going to work first time. It never works first time for me anyway, but right. So all you do is you just need to sew that opening back together. And I've seen people how they do it. They sew one edge, then the other edge, then they sew them, and then they pull it all together tight. I've tried to do that. I just can't work it out. I need to watch a few more tutorials. I'm sure I could work it out. But because this is the back, I'm not too fussed about how messy it is, as long as it closes up the hole so the stuffing doesn't fall out. Yeah, it's just a case of sewing that hole up, pulling it together, being able to just, I'm sure if I was a medical student and I was suturing like this, I would fail dramatically, but it is the back of the fabric and I'm just sewing up the holes so the stuffing doesn't fall out. I mean, my sewing is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it does the job. And then typically, I didn't make just a simple hole, did I? No, I cut it into kind of a shape. So I'm going to have to go across like that. Pull that together like that. There you go. Probably need a couple more stitches in there. I'm not sure I can get that through the other stitches. Just pull that together. There you go. So now pulled that all together. I'm just going to go over it just because it is starting to pull the grain of the fabric and I don't want it opening up and the stuffing all falling out. Okay, let's just do one in. Because I know it's the back and it doesn't matter, but I have to tuck it through. So you can see she's creating a lovely shape. So I've just got that one in the middle to do. probably should have done there you go. Rip that one without ripping the blue. Okay, so I'm just gonna, that is how I lost the pin yesterday. I dropped it. I'm just gonna thread that in. I'm getting it all in. Probably should have done the middle first and then worked outwards rather than starting on the outside and working in. But I wanted to do the more fiddly ones while the piece was more pliable, which it is way more pliable when you've not got, there you go. There you go. Could probably get a little bit more in there. I think. Let's go in that side. Oh. Said a little bit. Get that in the edge. Okay. Okay, and then this one will be easier to sew up because I made more of a neater cut. There you go. Yeah, see, it's pulling together much better. So the examples of this, lots of the examples of this I saw, they just hand stitched the detail on the two pieces of fabric and then cut the back. But I wanted to free machine embroider because I wanted to make that detail quite solid. Right. Let's do that one. There you go. And woo, it's bursting out of the seams. Okay, so the last one I've got to do is this quite fiddly one because it's actually quite a slim. I think I might have to leave that corner one there. I'm not sure I'm actually going to get anything in it. But I will do this one. Or should I take that one out? Now I'm going to do that one and then I'll decide about that corner. But I'm definitely going to do that one. So I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to finish that off. And then I will machine over the scraps to fuse them together. Okay, so trapunto finished, and that was quite tricky, so I have left that corner. And using free motion embroidery, I just went mad. I just put my foot down I just moved it round in circles, straight lines, and I've just completely covered and hopefully I've fixed all those threads. So I'm just going to pop it in the water soluble. No, I'm just going to pop it in water and hopefully that will dissolve that plasticky membrane. Oh, it's amazing. I like it. I like it a lot. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a helping hand. Just, I don't want any of the plastic left. So I'm just giving it a smush to get rid of that plasticky colouring. Just give it a smush. There we go. And a bit of a rub together, making sure all that plastic is gone. And look, squeeze it out. And I have created fabric that's fused together from the scraps of all those threads. Oh, I love it. Oh, it's come out so much better than I planned. Look at that. Oh, that's awesome. So I'm just going to leave that to dry. Pull it about, there's a few more bits of plastic, so I might leave that in the water for a little bit longer. But I love it. Oh, that's come out so well. I watched videos of them creating like lace and then melting it away and just free motion lace. So let's look at that. That has come out beautifully. I am really chuffed with that. Oh, I didn't know how it'd work out, but that's brilliant. I love it. And I've just made fabric. I mean, it's not woven, but it's sturdy. It's got structure to it. That's brilliant. I love it. Right, let's get the drying tea towel. This is my art tea towel, so I'm just going to lie that on there, leave that to dry, and then once that's dry we'll start putting the bits together and seeing what else we can add in. I'd like to add a little bit of plastic manipulation and melting in there as well. Okie dokie, I'll be back. Okay, my lovely crafty friends, we are back, and I have glued down, I've just used simple glue stick to glue them down, all the different patched, mended, fragmented samples that I have either created in other projects or have created specifically for this. So I've got some frayed denim that I've just stuck some lace over. I've got my shibori that I melted in hot water. I've got my ruffles. This was the velour that had the keys ironed into, didn't work very well. Layers of melted plastic, those fun little pom-poms. This is my fabric that I made in the last little bit of this video by fusing together all my scraps and just free embroidering over them. My trapunto, I've got that frayed bit of cord which I've actually just free stitched around. I've got some weave threaded it. I've threaded it, so I've pulled out some of the threads. Some of my crackle. This was one of my bleach experiments that I've just distressed using the end of the scissors. Got a little bag ruffle. This was the weaving. And then I've got a pleather piece that I ironed the keys onto. So that is repeated, and just some scraps of lace. I've got my 3D shibori that was stained by the beads. My coffee stained lace on top of a melted, and I just melted that with a heat gun. I created a bit of patchwork using just over an inch, I think about 1.5 inch squares of different scraps of fabric that I've just top sewed with blanket stitch to create a little bit of texture as well. That's another part of the bleach experiment. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use some slow stitching to slow stitch over the top of this. I might add some buttons. I'm going to do a little bit of sashiko, maybe in a completely different colour, just to pull it all together. I'm probably going to sew a bit around the lace. And then there is my fragmented patchwork of my manipulation. So I've got some plastic and some fabric manipulation on there. Yeah, really pleased with it. I like the colours. So I'll come back really briefly at the end of this video and just show you the finished project. I have got some pins holding things in, so I need to get those sewn in as well. So have fun. This part was just really about having fun and just pulling together all those bits that I'd done and I'd not used in the other pages, and then just doing some new things. Yeah, just pulling it all together, all the scraps, all the discarded bits that were left over from the other projects. Single-use plastic, I hadn't used that on my shibori page, so I thought I'd stick that on there. Same with this. So just pulling together all the scrappy discarded bits, but also some other techniques. Have fun with it, and I will be back when it's completely finished, just for a quick update. Okay, so we are finished with my fragmented mended patchwork. I used the sewing machine to affix everything to the backing, and then I've put some buttons on in the gaps. I've stuck a button on that, so it's like a little bit of a rosette. I've stitched on those bits and added like a little button collage, and then I've put some sashiko around the worn pocket, the worn corduroy. So that will go into my book. Let's open up to the next page. So I've got, on this page is my stained, and I did pop my writing on a little flippy flap. So this one can fit in there on the page, and then I can do the write-up on this bit here. So that is my fragmented patchwork mended piece. I'm going to pop my DiScArDeD to one side for a bit, and I'm going to catch up on some other projects again. And yeah, keep watching, keep liking, following, sharing, commenting. Let me know what you're up to. Really enjoy that. And don't forget, if you do anything, just post it on my Facebook page, Craft Be Claire's Crafting Community. Thank you for watching.